All right, guys. This is for me, it's late night. Just talking about this piece of news that I saw about Judge Dredd and the fact that there is apparent. I didn't even know there was a TV show coming out. To be honest, I had no idea. But from what I'm now hearing, there's like a TV project happening. And there's some interesting news about it. Anyway, before I get into that, first thing, actually, let me actually throw up some banners here. Let me throw up some banners, guys. Give me a second. Sorry, I'm doing this on live, so, or rather on a mobile. Oops. So there's a lot of like mishaps coming up. So you're seeing, doing this on iPad isn't the easiest. So that was like an old update. So let me just put it. Dredd, what they call it, Dredd TV. Show with, okay, let's see that. Put that on the screen. Sorry guys, actually it's a bit dark here. Get a bit more lights in the game. Oh boy. Yeah guys, I'm feeling a little sluggish today. All right, so now you see what's on the screen. You know, that's the topic at hand. Obviously with this, let me see, can I even do that? It doesn't look like I can. Yeah, so I can't share windows on this, so I can't pull up any images like I would typically like to do. I can't actually pull up any images, and I can't check where my streams are streaming from. From stream. Yeah, I can't even do that. So yeah, there's a lot of little features that I would like to have that I don't actually have here. But that's being as it may, you know, at least it's working. I did one broadcast earlier today. I need to actually put tags on that so people can actually find it. About the whole Jodie's Corner business. But yeah, no, this one's about Judge Dredd. So basically I'm hearing that there's a TV show and that the script's finished and Carl Urban and Sylvester Stallone are supposedly supposed to be coming back. Now, I have no idea how that will work, you know. I mean, some people have brought in rumors that, you know, it's possibly a cloning story that Carl Urban is, I don't know whether they're doing it the one way around or the other way around, that Stallone is the original and then Carl Urban is now a clone of him or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know why they would even try and conflagrate the two versions of Judge Dredd together, because the Stallone movie was terrible. Like, it was terrible. And by all accounts, you know, and I watched both of those films, the Carl Urban one was infinitely better than the Stallone one. I mean, at least for one thing, the tone of it was as much more serious, which is closer in tone to what the comics and the character is supposed to be. And one of the major things is that the guy didn't remove his helmet, which is point blank one of the main things of Judge Dredd. Like, the guy doesn't remove his helmet. So those are just like a couple of strange decisions that were made in the original. And also it was a comedy, you know, to all intents and purposes, where you cast a guy like Rob Schneider to be like the sidekick of Stallone for the whole movie. And Stallone removed his helmet within 2 seconds of the movie. So it just became a Stallone action film. Like, watching Judge Dredd, the Stallone's Judge Dredd, was one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had. Bearing in mind that I knew 2000 AD and the comic, and the fact that this guy took his helmet off within 2 seconds. And then it was just like a Stallone film, just an action film. And not even one of his good ones. So why you would want to bring that back, I don't know. The only cool thing about the original Judge Dredd film was the fact that they did put in certain details and characters and things that you were used to seeing in the comics, like that robots and I mean, they're just a few, it was, what was it called? The ABC Warrior, I think it was. And these were just like nice things that if you read the comics, you would have been familiar with that they brought in. But I mean, in general, man, that film was really, really, really bad. So yeah, I do not know how they're going to be connecting the two things. It remains to be seen. Seeing a continuation of the one with Lena Headey and Carl Urban, okay. I always thought that Carl Urban's jaw wasn't strong enough for Judge Dredd, personally. I just thought his jaw wasn't strong enough. I think you need like a bigger jaw, which sounds very stupid, but it's just true. Like you just need, because the whole Judge Dredd face is about this part of his face because you can't see anything else, so his whole personality and everything. I even remember when Judge Dredd, there was one comic, right, when he got shot and he was badly injured and he was in hospital. And even then in the comics, you still didn't see his face. Like I remember the panels. I remember that particular issue. And I remember thinking that, man, are we going to actually see this guy's face? Because people go into the hospital to visit him and you still didn't see the guy's face in the comics. Like that was how big a deal it was that you don't see Judge Dredd's face. You don't see his face. And yeah, the Carl Urban one, like I said, he kept his helmet on, but I just felt like the jaw wasn't doing what the jaw was supposed to be doing. It wasn't squared off enough. It wasn't rugged enough. Like me, I couldn't do it because my jaw is the wrong kind of jaw. But there are guys, who, I mean, look, like, guys have said this, and it's an obvious thing. Clint Eastwood as Judge Dredd would have been great had they just made the movie sooner, like in the late 80s or something, early 90s. Clint Eastwood would have been really good. That period when he was doing In the Line of Fire, that sort of era as well, would have probably been the last time that I think he would have been, because then he was getting older. So even in that role, In the Line of Fire, like they were talking about, the role was about an aging secret agent, who was on his last legs and all that. And I feel like that sort of age would have made a very good Judge Dredd film. Because the Dirty Harry character, I think we talked about this before in another episode about how Dirty Harry could also have been a template for Batman, which I completely agree with. Like the whole attitude of Dirty Harry and everything is very Batman-esque, and the whole ethos and aura of that character. When you really, I mean, I hadn't thought about it. I think it was Batfile who brought it up, rightly so, because that would have really worked. And I think as well, when you look at what Judge Dredd was, I think that is actually a more direct translation to Judge Dredd is the Clint Eastwood of the late 80s, early 90s than even to Batman. Like I think that he was Judge Dredd essentially at that period. Anyway, guys, you know what? That's the news on that. That's what I've heard. Just trying to keep you guys abreast of what's going on that I find of interest. Because there's definitely other news that I really don't care about. But this is interesting because Judge Dredd was one of my old comics that I did used to read, and I did want a good Judge Dredd film. The first one was really massive disappointment. The second one was a low budget, essentially a B movie. It was good. I watched it. It was good. I'm not going to say it's like it was amazing, but it was definitely good. Lena Headey did a good performance as a villain in that, I thought, and what's funny, like she's generally done very well with things. I think the problem has always been, it's like just the projects that she's actually in, less about her, because I remember that, what we've talked about a lot about Terminator and everything and what's happened. And to be honest, Sarah Connor Chronicles, she was very good in that, she's definitely, if you're thinking about what Linda Hamilton was, the kind of, sort of personality, acting wise that Lena Headey does, when you're even looking at Game of Thrones, whatever. In Sarah Connor Chronicles, she was actually quite good. I just thought the whole thing was just a misguided idea to even do that project. and the storyline and narrative was just weird, and it just a weird thing. But I think she did quite well. And again, in Judge Dredd, she did well in that as well. So ironically, I feel like it's so weird that she's actually quite good in action films, you know, and that might actually be down to her essential energy that she has with the acting and performance and the way she looks and everything. Because it's not like she's like particularly big or, you know, muscular, but for some reason she seems to have done quite well in male spaces in film, even in TV, like the role that she was playing on Game of Thrones. Ironically, like she was essentially the biggest tyrant in a show filled with tyrants. She was one of the worst, you know. All that is to say, you know, that last Dredd movie was not bad at all. If they said that they were trying to turn that into a TV show, I'd be like, okay, you know. It's actually called, and this is important, it's actually called Mega City 1. So it's not called Judge Dredd, it's called Mega City 1. So I'm assuming that this is going to be more about the city, Mega City 1. And if you read the comics, I remember that there was one panel in a Judge Dredd comic I read where this fish, which had been kept in a fish bowl or something or whatever in an apartment in Mega City 1, somehow gets tossed out of a window and falls into the ocean. And the narrative of what was going on in the fish's mind was the fact that it finally had freedom. But the fact is that the Mega City 1 water is so ridiculously polluted that it was only going to live for a few minutes or seconds or whatever, minutes or whatever it was, before it would be dead, you know? But it was like enjoying the bliss of freedom for the few minutes it was going to have before it would dead. And that was the tone of the 2000 AD and Judge Dredd comics. That was the tone of it. And I think it was a judge, because in 2000 AD, you had Judge Dredd, Rogue, I think it was Rogue Troopers, you know, which was Strontium Dogs. I remember that. I think it was Rogue Troopers. But you had like a bunch of different comics. It was like an anthology. 2000 AD is an anthology, and within it is Judge Dredd as well. You know, so it wasn't just Judge Dredd on its own. So I'm thinking that panel that I'm talking about was actually included in the Judge Dredd section. But those sort of things always stuck in my mind, of just the dingy, horrific nature of what Mega City 1 must be like to live in, you know? So it was just a very, very dramatic thing. And I feel like if they're going to make a TV show of it, Mega City 1 is ripe for a TV show. And if the police force in this show happens to be Judge Dredd, that's actually a cool, in a way, it's like a cool thing to do. I'm concerned about the fact that you're trying to connect Stallone's version with anything. Like, that just seems it could be a rumor that's not even true. But I just think that would be very misguided and a big mistake. Anyway, that's all I got to say. It's late night. I got to get myself the hell out of here. I might be back tomorrow with more stuff and more thoughts if there's anything else going on out there. Or I might just do the next classic, because I've got quite a few in there. The problem is I can't put the damn poster on the screen. So, you know, if I do the classic, it's not going to look as good without being able to put the poster on the screen, which is always what I want to do with those. Anyway, that being said, Bay out, Spielberg in, Talk Back lives. I'm out of here.